I want to tell you about something that puzzled me for years. It's a question so simple that most people forget to ask it. And yet, if you look at it from the view of classical physics, the physics of Newton and Maxwell, it is absolutely impossible. I'm sitting on a chair right now. You might be sitting on one too. It feels solid. It feels stable. But according to the laws of electricity and magnetism that I learned when I was a boy, I shouldn't be here. The chair shouldn't be here. In fact, every atom in the universe should have collapsed in a fraction of a second after it was formed. Most people think atoms exist because electrons are like little planets orbiting a sun. I used to think that too, but that picture is wrong. If it were true, the universe would have ended before it began. So, why are we here? Why doesn't the atom collapse? I discovered that the answer lies in a strange kind of jitter, a refusal of nature to sit still. And honestly, it changed the way I see everything. Let me tell you how I figured it out. When I was a young man, studying at MIT and later at Princeton, we had this model of the atom that everyone seemed to accept, but it had a terrible secret. We pictured the nucleus, the heavy positive charge, in the middle, and the electron whizzing around the outside like the Earth around the sun. It's a beautiful picture. It's romantic, but there is a catastrophe hiding inside it. You see, in classical physics, we knew something very specific about electricity. If you take a charged particle, like an electron, and you accelerate it, it radiates energy. It gives off light. It loses power. Think about it. When you swing a rock around your head on a string, you have to keep pulling on it to keep it in a circle. That's acceleration. An electron orbiting a nucleus is accelerating every single moment, constantly changing direction. So, according to Maxwell's equations, which are beautiful equations, by the way, very robust, that electron should be broadcasting light like a radio station. It should be losing energy, and as it loses energy, it should spiral inward, closer and closer to the nucleus. Faster and faster. I calculated it once, just to see. Do you know how long it should take for all matter in the universe to destroy itself? About a 10 billionth of a second. So, I looked at the world around me. The trees were still there. My desk was still there. I was still there. Obviously, the classical theory was wrong. But why? Now, the standard answer they give you in school is, "Oh, Feynman, that's just quantum mechanics. There are discrete energy levels. The electron can only be here or here, but not in between." And I remember thinking, that's not an explanation! That's just a rule you made up to fit the facts! It's like saying, why doesn't the car fall off the cliff? Because we made a law that cars can't fall off cliffs. It doesn't tell you how it works. It doesn't give you the feeling of the machinery. I couldn't accept it just as a rule. I needed to understand the mechanism. I wanted to know what the electron was actually doing. During my time at Los Alamos, when we were working on the bomb, I had a lot of time to think about the fundamental nature of particles. I started to realize that the stability of the atom wasn't about orbitals, or shells, in the way a chemist thinks of them. It was about a fight, a violent, dynamic struggle between two opposing forces of nature. I noticed something in my calculations that hinted at a very strange behavior. The electron isn't staying away from the nucleus because it's in a specific orbit. It's staying away because it's claustrophobic. Yes, claustrophobic. That's the word I use. But to explain this, to really make you see what I saw, I have to take you back to a moment where my intuition completely failed me, and I had to rebuild my understanding of motion from the ground up. Because what I found is that nothing in the universe, and I mean nothing, is ever truly standing still. Let's do a thought experiment. This is something I used to do in my head when I was trying to fall asleep. Imagine you have an electron and you want to pin it down. You want to know exactly where it is. So you build a box, a little trap, and you put the electron inside. Now, in the world we're used to, the world of marbles and baseballs, If you put a marble in a box and let it settle, it just sits there. It's quiet. It has zero energy. It's at rest. But the electron is different. As you make the box smaller, trying to locate the electron more precisely, something strange starts to happen. The electron starts to buzz. It starts to move. This is where I started to see the pattern. It's related to Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, but I prefer to think of it physically. The principle says you can't know the position and the momentum perfectly at the same time. But what does that mean? It means that if you try to squeeze the electron into a very small space, if you try to make its position, let's call it delta x, very small, then its momentum, delta p, has to get very big. The more you confine it, the faster it moves. It panics. It bounces off the walls of your mental box with tremendous force. I realized that you can never crush an electron down to a point. If you did, its momentum would become infinite. It would have infinite energy. So, think about the atom again. The nucleus is positive. The electron is negative. The nucleus is pulling the electron in. It's saying, "Come here! Come closer! Sit right on top of me!" The electrical force is trying to crush the electron into the center. But the electron says, "No! If I get too close, my location becomes too precise. If my location is precise, I have to move faster. I have to jiggle." So, there is a compromise. This is the first breakthrough I had in visualizing this. The atom is a compromise between the electrical force pulling in and the quantum jitter pushing out. I calculated the energy balance. If you bring the electron in from far away, the potential energy goes down. That's good. Nature likes low energy. But as it gets squeezed, the kinetic energy of confinement, that jitter shoots up. There is a sweet spot, a bottom of the valley, a specific distance where the pull of the nucleus and the push of the uncertainty are balanced. That distance. It comes out to exactly the size of a hydrogen atom. It was beautiful. I thought, aha, that's it. It's the jitter that saves us. But wait, I was being too simple. Because if you just think of it as a jittering ball, you still have the problem of radiation. A jittering ball is still accelerating. It should still die. I realized I hadn't solved the real mystery yet. I had only described the symptom. To understand why it doesn't radiate away its energy, I had to stop thinking of the electron as a particle altogether. And that leads me to the strangest idea I ever had. To explain what happened next, I have to tell you about a man named Mr. Bader. He was my high school physics teacher. One day he called me over and said, "Feynman, you look bored. I want to show you something fascinating." He taught me the principle of least action. It's an old idea. It says that when a thing moves from point A to point B, like a ball thrown in the air, it takes a specific path. And that path is the one where the action, a mathematical quantity involving energy and time, is the smallest. It's like the particle Ev knows the best route before it starts. It takes the most efficient path. I love this idea. It felt like the particle had a brain. But when I got into quantum mechanics, this beautiful idea seemed to break. In quantum mechanics, we say we don't know where the particle is. So how can it choose the best path if it doesn't have a definite path? This bugged me for years. At Princeton, I was trying to rewrite quantum mechanics using this old idea of least action. And I hit a wall. I was trying to force the electron to take a single path, but then I had a crazy thought. A really wild thought. I remember sitting in my room, staring at the paper, and I asked myself, what if the electron doesn't take one path? What if it takes all of them? This sounds absurd. I know. You're thinking, Richard, surely the electron goes from here to there. But hear me out. I did the math. I calculated the contribution of every possible path the electron could take. The straight path. The path where it goes to Mars and comes back. The path where it dances a jig. And here is the magic. Most of those crazy paths cancel each other out. They interfere destructively. It's like waves in a pond crashing into each other and flattening out. Beaut. the paths that are very close to that path of least action. They reinforce each other. They add up. So the electron appears to move in a straight line not because it chose that path, but because that's the only place where the probabilities didn't kill each other. Now hold on. This is where it gets to the atom. I realize the electron in the atom isn't orbiting. It's not moving in the classical sense. It is simultaneously exploring every possible region of space around the nucleus. It is smelling out all the possibilities. But wait, I realize something even stranger. If the electron is doing this sum over histories, exploring all paths, why doesn't it explore the path that leads into the nucleus? Why doesn't the probability cloud just suck itself into the center? I had to look at the interaction with light again. This is where my work on QED, quantum electrodynamics, started to take shape. And the answer wasn't just about the electron. It was about the vacuum itself. You see, we tend to think of space as empty. If you take all the atoms out of a box, you say the box is empty. But in my calculations, I kept running into these infinities, these mathematical pests that wouldn't go away, and they were coming from the vacuum. I discovered that empty space is actually a boiling, bubbling soup of virtual particles, positrons and electrons popping into existence and annihilating each other in a fraction of a nanosecond. Now, imagine our electron sitting in this soup. It's not alone. It is constantly shaking hands with these virtual particles. It's constantly interacting with its own electromagnetic field. I asked myself, if this is true, what does it do to the electron? It makes it jitter. Even if you could cool the universe down to absolute zero, even if you could remove all the heat, the electron would still be shaking. This is the zero-point energy, the energy that remains when all other energy is removed. Now, here's what I noticed that no one else seemed to emphasize in the same way. This jitter, this interaction with the vacuum, it's what gives the electron its effective size. Because it's interacting with this field, the electron is smeared out. It's not a point, it's a blur. This is where my understanding completely shifted. I used to think the electron was a point particle avoiding the nucleus because of a mathematical rule. But now I saw it differently. The electron is fuzzy. If you try to push a fuzzy object into a small hole, it resists, not because it's hard, but because it's vibrating. So, let's go back to the radiation problem. Why doesn't it crash? Remember the death spiral. The electron radiates energy because it accelerates. But in the quantum view, for the electron to spiral in, it would have to give up energy in a continuous slide. It would have to slide down the ramp. But the ramp isn't smooth! The wave nature of the electron, this interference of all those paths, means that there are only certain stable patterns that can exist. It's like a guitar string. You can have a wave that vibrates once or twice or 3 times. You can't have a wave that vibrates 2.5 times. It cancels itself out. The electron can't spiral in because there are no steps for it to stand on between the ground state and the nucleus. To go lower, it would have to change its vibration to a pattern that self-destructs. So, it's stuck. It's absolutely stuck in the ground state. It wants to fall. The electrical force is pulling it. But the wave mechanics, the geometry of its own existence, won't let it. But there was one final piece of the puzzle, the thing that really made me sit back in my chair and say, wow, I had the wave picture. I had the jitter, but I wanted to understand the necessity of it. You see, in classical physics, things like to stop. Friction slows things down. Everything eventually wants to stop moving and go to sleep. But in quantum mechanics, I realized that stopping is forbidden. If an electron stopped, if it had zero momentum and sat right on the nucleus, we would know its position perfectly and its momentum perfectly. Nature forbids this. Now, here is what changed everything for me. I realized that the stability of matter, the reason you and I aren't collapsing right now, is actually a manifestation of the violent energy of the vacuum. The electron is frantically moving, exploring all paths, interacting with the vacuum. Just to maintain that stationary orbit, it takes a tremendous amount of kinetic energy to keep the electron inflated against the pull of the nucleus. I remember calculating the speed of an electron in a hydrogen atom. It's moving at about 200 kilometers per second. That is fast. That is incredibly energetic. Look at a piece of steel. It looks cold. It looks still, but inside it is furious. The electrons are buzzing around at millions of miles an hour, banging against the confinement of the uncertainty principle, pushing back against the atoms next to them. The rigidity of matter, the fact that you can't push your hand through the table, comes from this kinetic energy. You are feeling the jitter of the electrons fighting for their space. When you touch a table, you aren't touching matter in the sense of a solid ball. You are touching a force field created by the frantic motion of these probability clouds. And then it hit me. I had been looking at it all wrong. I thought the mystery was, why doesn't it collapse? But the real revelation was what this non-collapse tells us about the structure of reality itself. Everything I thought I knew about stillness was an illusion. And then it hit me. The atom isn't a structure that has energy. The atom is energy. The reason atoms exist, the reason they don't just collapse into a tiny point, is because the universe fundamental refuses to be pinned down. If the electron gave up, if it stopped moving, it would violate the uncertainty principle. It would cease to be a wave. It would cease to be a quantum object. I realized that the ground state, the bottom level where the electron lives, isn't a place of rest. It is the eye of the storm. It is the point of balance between the desire to collapse and the necessity to move. It's like a man running on a treadmill that is tilted downward. He has to run just to stay in the same place. The electron is running, exploring every path, vibrating with the vacuum, just to maintain the existence of the hydrogen atom. And because it can't shed that last bit of energy, because there is no lower step that fits its wave pattern, it is safe, it is eternal. As long as it keeps moving, it survives. This stability, it's dynamic, it's active. I felt a tremendous sense of relief when I understood this. The universe isn't a clockwork mechanism that was wound up and is winding down. At its heart, the universe is a dance. It's a dance that can never stop because the rules of the dance floor, the rules of quantum mechanics, won't allow the dancers to sit down. Matter is stable not because it is rigid, but because it is restless. This changed how I see reality. When I look at the ocean, or a flower, or my own hand, I don't see solid objects anymore. I see a swarm of activity. I see billions upon billions of electrons, all confined in their little uncertainty boxes, all jittering, all exploring all possible paths, all conspiring to create the illusion of solidity. It makes me feel wonderful. It means that at the deepest level, nature is vibrant, it's alive with motion. We used to think that uncertainty was a bad thing, that it was a limit on our knowledge, a fog that prevented us from seeing the truth. But I realized that uncertainty is the foundation of existence. Without that jitter, without that fuzziness, the electrons would crash, the atoms would vanish, the stars wouldn't shine. There would be no chemistry, no biology, no us. We are here because the electron cannot sit still. We are here because nature loves to wiggle. I hope you can see what I see. It's not just equations. It's not just math. It is the strange, beautiful, vibrating machinery of the world. This is the beauty of physics. You ask a simple question, why doesn't the chair collapse? And you end up discovering that the universe is a sea of infinite motion. And that is something worth thinking about.